for starters, apologies for taking a night off because there were several developments last night, and I decided to not reschedule / bail on a second consecutive date. So hopefully you guys can understand why. And yeah, let's get off and running because there's plenty to discuss, including multiple new names, multiple new reports that are out there as Jesse Minter finalizes and more so starts to really put his staff, his 2026 staff, into focus for the Ravens up and coming. So his introductory press conference, by the way, there is a date and a time now for you. There was always a date. We were just waiting on a specific time. It is Thursday, January 29th at 11:30. That's 11:30 in the morning. So Sarah and I will be shifting around the vault time, pushing that back. We usually start at 12 noon Eastern on weekdays. I'm guessing it'll be more towards 1 o'clock. We'll see how the timing of all of that unfolds. But again, it is 11:30 on Thursday, January 29th. In terms of what I have in store for you guys on tonight's show, look, you got multiple new reports, a surprise offensive coordinator candidate, DeAndre Hopkins addressing his future in Baltimore, and what is up with Rashad Bateman. All that and more, what I have on deck. Thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring the program. Thanks to Preston Automotive Group for continuing to be with me as my longest standing sponsor. And if you guys could on the way in, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. I'll get to as many super chats as possible. And I did not come up with a poll prior to the show. So if you have a recommendation, let me know what your recommendation is, and we will respond accordingly and make a poll for you guys to all vote in tonight. And as always, the guest line access is always open, and it is pinned right now in my live chat. We'll open up those calls in just a second. Tom Pelissero, earlier on, this was actually during the vault, reported that the Ravens are going to interview Lions assistant head coach and wide receivers coach Scotty Montgomery for the offensive coordinator job. He's been on Dan Campbell's staff for the past 3 seasons in senior roles in Detroit. And you may recognize him if you are a fan of Maryland athletics, meaning the Terrapins, the Terps, because he was the offensive coordinator under Mike Locksley in 2019 and 2020. Quarterbacks coach as well. So again, 2019 and 2020, he was the Maryland offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach in College Park, was a wide receiver back in his day. He went undrafted in 2000, played his college football at Duke, had a brief NFL career that began in Carolina with the Panthers, then went on to play for the Broncos, Raiders, and a different league. Got his coaching career started at Duke, his alma mater, where he began as the wide receivers coach, spent 4 years there, then went on to Pittsburgh, bunch of other stops, including Maryland. But in terms of most recently in his NFL work, he was the running backs coach in Indianapolis in 21 and 22. And he's been with Detroit, like Tom mentioned, over the last several years under Dan Campbell since 2023. So look, do I think that he's a legitimate candidate at offensive coordinator? I wouldn't say that. But I suspect there's a reason why they want to have a chat with him. And who knows? Much like they did with the head coach search. Maybe, just maybe. We had a report out there from Pelissero that we discussed yesterday, or I should say earlier today on the vault, as it relates to Joe Brady and why they maybe didn't cancel his visit, which was scheduled for the same day that they announced Jesse Minter's hiring. Like maybe they have other ideas for Scotty Montgomery on the offensive staff. Much like maybe they have an idea for Joe Brady to be the first offensive coordinator under Jesse Minter. This was Pelissero.
Part of the timing here, Rich, was, they essentially knew they were hiring Jesse Minter on Wednesday night. The issue was they had a Thursday interview with Joe Brady. Well, they wanted to go through with that interview, in part, I believe, because Joe Brady now, depending how some other things fall, could end up being the offensive coordinator. Another logical name that came up way back at the start of this as a potential candidate to take over. When you're talking about Lamar Jackson, his skill set at this time in his career, he's not, built like Josh Allen, but there are some similar types of things that you can do in terms of the run threat, in terms of the vertical passing. Joe Brady would be a fit. Now the question becomes, does Joe Brady get the Bills head coaching job? Does he potentially get the Cardinals head coaching job, which he interviewed for a couple of days ago? Is there even a scenario where he goes back to Buffalo as the OC? That seems like the least likely of the options right now. We'll see how some of these things fall, and it might take a little bit of time. But if you're talking about who the likely candidates would be to take over the offense now in Baltimore with Minter coming from the defensive side, I would put Joe Brady along with the likes of Cliff Kingsbury as a potential option. Maybe Matt Nagy could be an option. Those types of guys who run those offenses, all different shades of it, but all potentially could be a fit for where they want to take Lamar in that offense in Baltimore.
So the only reason I repeat that clip from earlier on the vault is maybe they have a vision for Scotty Montgomery. Like maybe he'll somehow, some way be involved with Jesse Minter's offensive staff. Now, as you look at his resume, there doesn't appear to be any overlap from any of the many stops that Jesse Minter's made throughout his coaching career, which dates back to 2006, where he began as an intern in South Bend at Notre Dame. But maybe there's a relationship there, or simply put, maybe it's just an interview that they feel like they can learn something from, that at the very least they can have a conversation on and see where it goes from there. There are DMV ties, like I said. He spent a couple years at Maryland. So until he becomes a legitimately viable candidate, aside from just an initial interview, that's where I'll leave it at that. And he's going to have a conversation with the Ravens hiring team. Elsewhere, and maybe a little bit more interestingly, given the Ravens' issues in 2025 up and down their offensive line, Jeff, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow, is reporting that while there's nothing finalized yet with Ravens assistant coaches, he's saying a strong candidate to join Minter's new staff is popular offensive line coach Dwayne Ledford. As Jeff notes, his work as Falcons run game coordinator and their offensive line coach was widely praised last year. He became available when Kevin Stefanski decided to bring in Bill Callahan, and that was just last week when Atlanta finalized Stefanski's hiring. And as Adam refers to him, he is legendary within the offensive line community. Very successful career, revered. So they're going with Bill Callahan, but that means Dwayne Ledford is a free agent, and as you see here within the offensive line community, maybe not for long. Duke Manyweather, an offensive line guru. As something catches my eye out of the corner of my eye, nothing as it pertains to the Ravens. Duke Manyweather, offensive line guru. He tweeted just a week ago, Ledford is officially a free agent. Don't expect him to be out of work long. Matthew Bergeron, who along with the entire offensive line in Atlanta, had a pretty successful season, particularly in the run game. He didn't like the move. He quote tweeted one of the reporters out there, and he was like shaking my head. So not exactly an endorsement for Stefanski's new tenure that's starting in Atlanta. But the point is, I think really the main point here is that this isn't the Ravens aren't even a week into the Jesse Minter era. And while a lot of these ultimately will be evaluated on paper up until September when the bullets are flying, it's a strong start to a first-year head coach's resume. And I haven't even had a chance to speak on this channel yet. We did extensively on the vault earlier who the Ravens reportedly are bringing in to be their defense pass game coordinator and their defensive backs coach. One of the more coveted in the collegiate ranks. And so far, so good for Jesse Minter. Remember, this isn't a guy who's as connected as a guy that has the amount of NFL experience that John Harbaugh has. Years and years, decades and decades. But Jesse's got the upside, and perhaps Jesse's got the longevity. So a couple thumbs up to start as Jesse puts together for the first time his staff on all three phases. And by the way, it certainly doesn't hurt that Jesse's father, who in all likelihood I would think will somehow be involved with the organization like he was with the Chargers, certainly doesn't hurt that that guy's got almost 50 years of coaching experience between both levels. So that's something that Jesse has in the back pocket as well. Now, as I was just mentioning, allow me to introduce, or maybe reintroduce if you follow Notre Dame football, the Ravens' new defensive pass game coordinator and DB's coach. I just mentioned him, Mike Mickens. Any Fighting Irish fans in here? Matt Zenitz was on this. And Pete Sampson, longtime beat reporter within the Notre Dame media community. He refers to Mickens as a mainstay of the Irish staff under Marcus Freeman and refers to him as the primary architect of arguably the nation's best secondary. And because I feel like this was pertinent, I'll read it again, just as I did on the vault, just in case you guys missed it. Because I have someone on that I lean on who has a great pulse and is involved with the Notre Dame football program. So I reached out this morning and asked him to tell us all a little bit about Mike Mickens, reportedly the newest Ravens DB's coach and defensive pass game coordinator. And here's what I got back. An enormous loss for Notre Dame. He has elevated the DB room at Notre Dame like you wouldn't believe. Historically, Notre Dame always had the toughest time attracting the best DB recruits because of the admission requirements, etc. But ever since Mickens took over, he dispelled the myth pretty quickly. Guy was a killer recruiter and developer of DB talent. The last 2 seasons, Notre Dame had the best defensive backfield in the country, which was unfathomable 10 years ago. Last year, when our defensive coordinator left for the Bengals, Al Golden, Mickens threw his hat in the ring for promotion to DC, and he didn't get it. While I think he was happy at Notre Dame, he wants to continue to elevate to the next level, which is a good sign. He's a player's coach. The kids loved him. And like I said, he was an unbelievable recruiter and scout for talent. I would say time will tell on how his style will translate to the NFL, but something tells me he'll be a great addition to the Ravens. He's got a history developing Alohi Gilman and Kyle Hamilton, both absolute dogs. So the continuity there should help. That from somebody I trust on all things Notre Dame. As for his resume, Mike Mickens and who he is, he's a 38-year-old former NFL cornerback. He'll turn 39 in July. Born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, went to school at Cincinnati, and was a 7th-round draft pick of the Dallas Cowboys in 2009. Hung around the NFL for less than 2 years. Immediately got into coaching in 2011 at his alma mater, Cincinnati, as a defensive assistant. And ironically, if you're wondering where the overlap is here with Jesse Minter, guess who was a grad assistant that season or around that time? Jesse Minter. So there was overlap at Cincinnati, and there was overlap at Indiana State. Those were the 2 overlaps. He then went on to Idaho to become the cornerbacks coach after a couple years serving as defensive assistants in Cincinnati and Indiana State. Then Bowling Green, then back to Cincinnati, then a big jump to Notre Dame, where he was the cornerbacks coach from 2020 to 23, DBs coach 24 to 25, and now, again, reportedly, he's off to Baltimore. So good for him, man. He's been a developer of talent. He's worked with some pretty signature players. By the way, one of those is Sauce Gardner during his time at Cincinnati. If that's not enough for you, Xavier Watts and a couple up-and-coming players, one of whom hasn't even been drafted yet, in Leonard Moore and Benjamin Morrison. So just Google those players should you need a little bit more info getting taken care of and looking a little bit over them. So, again, it's a honeymoon phase for coverage. It's a honeymoon phase for evaluating the hire, the staff hires, and everything else that's to come. It's kind of like free agency. Every big acquisition or every splash or every change is refreshing and on paper a home run. Until the bullets are flying, we won't truly know several months from now when they roll that ball out and kick off in September of 2026. But so far, so good for a young hire and a first-year head coach who's starting to put this entire thing together and will field questions for the first time as the Ravens' next head coach coming up on Thursday at 11:30 in the morning from one winning drive. Sarah and I will instantly react to it afterwards. Thoughts on a couple of these new names? Thoughts on Scotty Montgomery getting an interview? Thoughts on what Mike Mickens here might do for the Ravens secondary? Tell you what, he's not going to be able to do much if they don't figure out what they're doing in the pass rush department. I can tell you that. I can tell you that pretty confidently, matter of fact. Let's open up the guest lines. Chef and Moses been waiting patiently as we kind of get this thing started tonight. Appreciate you both for being here. Joe Jenkins hits us with a super chat before we do anything, and he says, Bobby, I'm glad your dating life is great. Who said it was great, Joe? That being said, you have Voltron's Trosseteers, and your handle is Bobby Baltimore. With your dating success, you might have to change your name to Bobby Blue Pill. Kid it. Oh, baby. Joe is feeling it tonight. Joe with a PG-13 super chat, which I love. Good thing that wasn't on the vault, Joe. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate you coining Trosseteers. And most importantly, thanks for gassing me up. I don't think there's anything great about my dating life. Let's be clear on that. Fellas, let me get a FanDuel read in here before we bring you on and open up the guest lines. I still need to come up with a poll as well. So please, if you guys are interested in designing that for me tonight, I'll be taking your recommendations, suggestions in the live chat. Thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring the program all of 2026. They just came on board, and these partnerships don't happen without you guys first and foremost. So appreciate them, appreciate you, and appreciate this matchup that we're going to have in less than 2 weeks from now in Santa Clara. I'll be out there working the Radio Row events in the days leading up to Super Bowl 60. Thrilled to be working my third Super Bowl and all the events and happenings that come with that. Looking forward to bringing you guys a ton of coverage from San Francisco. Seattle has opened as 4.5-point favorites over New England. You got a first-year head coach in New England in Mike Vrabel and a second-year head coach. Now, I know Vrabel had a previous experience, but I'm talking about with their respective programs. Mike Mack is in year 2. Vrabel's in year 1. Just remarkable turnarounds for their respective groups, and now they're going head-to-head in a game that should be, if it lives up to the billing, much like those did in different high-scoring, low-scoring affairs yesterday, that we're going to be in for a treat in a couple weeks from now. Over-under set at 45.5. You can go to sportsbook.fanduel.com to learn more, not just about the upcoming Super Bowl matchup, but take a look at all the leagues. Bet responsibly. Gamble smartly. I appreciate them for the continued support of what they're bringing here and powering this channel, along with the Preston Automotive Groups and a number of other sponsors that we have, which we're very appreciative of. Guest lines are open. Over 900 concurrents and counting on a busy Monday and a busy start to the week. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. Anybody that's asking, did I cancel last night? No, I did not. JP was wondering, did I cancel? No. But when I was walking out the door, all these different news stories start dropping, like Chris Horton going to New York after he was initially blocked by the Ravens. I'm like, son of a bitch. I thought about canceling just for you people. Just for you, Moses. Welcome to the program. 90 seconds on the clock, my friend. Good to see you.
What's up, brother, man? I just, first of all, I just want to say a couple things. I appreciate what you do for this channel, man, and love that you give us all these updates and news and take time out of your dating life to give us all this. So thank you for that, brother. Couple things, man. I just, man, it's a great time to be a freaking Ravens fan. I'll tell you what, with that Jesse Minter hire, super excited. although I thought it wasn't going to be him, I thought we are going to go offense. But hey, man, I'm just as excited about Jesse Minter as anything. And I say let's roll with it. I think two things. Or a couple things. I think by Thursday's presser, I think the offensive coordinator will be sitting over there with Jesse Minter. I feel like it's going to be Cliff Kingsbury because I feel like Lamar's input on the offensive coordinator is going to be huge. I also think there's a very good possibility that it could be Joe Brady. As far as we know, Diana Rossini was giving us the updates on what's his name, Cliff Kingsbury, but we don't know anything about Joe Brady yet. Like maybe Lamar likes him just as much. We just don't know anything yet. So, anyways, I honestly, my personal take, I would love to see somebody in there that is going to work well with Lamar and somebody that Lamar wants. I just want to keep Lamar happy because we got to understand we need to get him signed for a long-term deal here coming up in the springtime here before the draft. So we gotta think about those things too. So EDC, let's get it done, man.
Appreciate the call, man. Are you on the West Coast or where are you driving tonight?
I am currently in Nebraska. I'm a semi truck driver, so I'm heading. Got a delivery in Sacramento, California.
I'm glad you took some time, dude. Safe travels, and thanks for your commentary tonight.
Love you, man. Appreciate what you do.
Feelings mutual. Appreciate that. I love that. Once I saw the sun, I knew it couldn't be East Coast, right? Well, one thing, Moses, I can tell you is that what we know about Joe Brady is that the Ravens felt strongly enough to at least wanted to have a conversation with him, as we know, on Thursday of last week, which was the day that they announced Minter's hiring. Now, what went down in that conversation, I have no clue. But since then, Joe has continued to be a candidate for several of the vacancies that are out there. And just moments ago, within the last hour or so, the Raiders have announced their second interview, that they've completed their second interview with Joe Brady. So if I'm Joe, obviously, based on what my objectives are and goals are, and I don't know what his are, but while the Ravens offensive coordinator job is certainly coveted and attractive, if you're a young head coach and you feel like, hey, I don't need to necessarily go win now, like, again, I'm talking about if he goes to the Raiders, for example. Is it a guarantee that he's winning now with Fernando Mendoza a year from now? No, it's far from a guarantee, especially knowing that they're overhauling everything there for the most part. But if he likes it and he thinks it's a good fit, then that's a head coach opportunity versus an offensive coordinator position. There's a lot. When you're weighing the pro-con scale there's a lot to consider. So anyway, maybe the Ravens were like, look, go out, see what your candidacy is all about. Come on back to us and let us know because we'd love to have you. Or maybe, to your point, maybe Cliff Kingsbury's the leader in the clubhouse. Or maybe, just maybe, Jesse Minter is doing this kind of very quietly, very swiftly. And maybe he has multiple candidates in mind from one of his many stops prior to Baltimore. Brad Biggs, this is interesting. Brad Biggs, he's covered the Bears since 2001. He is a popular Bears personality. Just tweeted 5 minutes ago that the Ravens have put in a slip to talk to Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle. Well, guys, buckle up. We got a new candidate to learn right now in real time, so let's do it. But before I get too far into that rabbit hole, and we will get to you in a second, Chef, I can tell you one guy who won't be calling the plays in Baltimore in 2026. That's Mike McDaniel. There was some smoke. Everybody was wondering, what's up with the delay? Why haven't you gone pen to paper yet? You know it. Well, no need to speculate anymore. The Chargers made that official earlier today. So again, Mike McDaniel will be Greg Roman's successor in Los Angeles, and he'll work under Jim Harbaugh as the next offensive coordinator for the Chargers. Everybody ready to talk about the newest candidate? And Chef, I tell you what, you're going to be my crutch right now. You want to know why? I'm going to give you 90 seconds on the clock to talk to the people about why you were calling in the first place, which is going to allow me to multitask and put some materials together to talk about yet another candidate. Sound good? Sound good. Chef, 90 seconds on the clock. Good to see you, brother.
Not much, Mavi. Nothing much. But I just want to say two things. One, I'm gonna just say I trust the organization. I mean, they made the right hire with Jesse Minter. So in terms of like who's the offense coordinator, who's gonna fill out the rest of the staff, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and just let them go from there. I will say I'm looking forward to his Thursday press conference. Because as much as we're saying like, yeah, he's not a Harbaugh guy. He really comes from the Jesse Minter tree or the Rick Minter tree and whatnot. I still want to know if he's gonna feed us the same line of beating around the bush that Harbaugh did. So like, I'm just interested. Is he gonna be a straight shooter? Is he gonna be like, well, we like our guys, blah blah, whatever. Second thing that I want to hit on, Bobby. I know you've been on the record for saying that after the AFC Championship game, it just didn't make sense for the Ravens to move on from Harbaugh. I beg to differ. I was saying it from after the AFC Championship game that they should have moved on from Harbaugh when you had the next guy in-house. I mean, you look at what Mike McDonald did year 2 with the Seattle Seahawks. First year, I mean, he was just really seeing who wanted to be there, drafted some key pieces, made some additions in free agency, really got the whole team to buy in. And then now you look at it, he's in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I'm going to get up here and say, I told y'all so. Should have moved on from Harbaugh after that bad. Bobby, you can shake your head all you want. After that bad, poorly just put together coaching game plan, offensively, first half, defensively, terrible. Defensive adjustments after the second half were better. I mean, you helped the Chiefs less than 17 points in that AFC Championship game. But again, it was marred by the whole Harbaugh on the sideline, all just confused. Be like, wow, I don't know why we're not running the ball. The Harbaugh meme, like, bro, you got a headset. Do something.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
With us.
Yeah, you're standing on it, and I'm standing on it too, just from a practical standpoint. Like, I'm not saying that, like, fundamentally, that wouldn't have been an intriguing decision to make, but that would have been bad business. You hadn't been to the AFC Championship game in the Lamar era. You were knocking on the door. And you had a historic season, too. A Lamar Jackson MVP season, and you're going to can Harbaugh? That's not good business. Like, that's not living in reality. Hindsight's always 20/20. So I can't get behind that, not even these years later. That's not, you have to put yourself in Steve Bisciotti's shoes and take, I'm not saying Chef is doing this, but you have to take off your fandom hat or goggles and look at it from a business principle standpoint. Donovan Carter, art and design. And by the way, we're about to talk about the breaking news that you see on the screen in a second here. Donovan, what's up, brother? I think that Montgomery guy's going to be hired in Baltimore, but not as an offensive coordinator, maybe as one of the skill coaches. Yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind here, because that's how the Ravens do business. Just because you're getting an interview labeled as offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, like Joe Cullen the other night, doesn't necessarily mean that you will fill that position. Maybe there's a better role that you can fill. Thanks, Donovan. Joe Jenkins writes, I purposely waited till tonight for Sarah. Love y'all. He's referring to this super chat earlier, which was definitely PG-13, which I love. Thank you, Joe. Steve says, since it's an all-Mike Super Bowl, they need to reunite Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick and have the feelings Joe Brady will be our offensive coordinator. Need to keep T. Martin. I would have to think if Lamar gets what he wants, I'd have to think that keeping T in the organization and maybe even directly working with Lamar as his quarterbacks coach would be something he would request. But then again, I can't speak for Lamar. I'm just speaking for the rapport that they've built over the last several years as he's been in that position. Thanks, Steve. Well, shall we dig in real time to Declan Doyle? Let's do it. Declan Doyle has emerged as a new name and a new offensive coordinator candidate for the Ravens. Declan just wrapped up his first year as an offensive coordinator with Ben Johnson in Chicago. And it was a pretty darn successful season for Chicago, don't you think? Inches away in a lot of ways from advancing on to the NFC Championship. And Caleb Williams, he's like, yo, I'm here to stay. Yes, he is. Couple big-time standout moments for Caleb, too. And he's just getting started. Declan is young. And remember, this is one of those types of head coach, offensive coordinator relationships like there is in other markets like San Francisco, and there's plenty others, where he's under the tutelage, if you will, of the full-time play caller who's the head coach. You see it with Kyle Shanahan. You see it with Ben Johnson. You see it with Andy Reid. You see it with a lot of high-powered offensive teams that have tremendous experience at the head coach position on the offensive side of the ball. And maybe you'll see it with the Ravens on the defensive side of the ball as Jesse Minter's tenure begins. I'll keep saying this over and over until we get it confirmed, but I expect him to be asked on Thursday if he expects to be the primary defensive play caller on game day and the head coach and all the management, clock management that comes with that. But Declan's a young dude. 29, I have it here. Prior to his role as offensive coordinator under Ben Johnson, he was with the Broncos as the tight ends coach for a couple of years. Prior to that, he was with the Saints as an offensive assistant. And prior to that, he was a student assistant at his alma mater, Iowa. So he's got some Iowa blood. The Ravens are pretty familiar with Iowa blood, and they've had some pretty successful players from the Iowa Hawkeyes come through over the years. None more successful or significant than Marshall Yanda, the future Hall of Famer. So again, this is one of those young, up-and-coming names. Do they have interest in bringing him in a non-offensive coordinator role, but with the offensive coordinator title? I also don't know, having just looked into this now in real time with you guys spontaneously, whether there's some sort of connection between he, and I'm going to say the Minter family, not just Jesse from this point on, because remember, Rick has double the experience throughout his coaching life that his son does. And that's just based on sample size and years. Rick has close to 50 years of experience at both levels combined. Jesse, since 2006. You combine that, that's a pretty good net. Certainly a good net. Be curious to see how Rick Minter, if at all, factors into the strategy here moving forward. Stephanie says, what are the chances we can sign Chris Shula? Have they passed on him now? Thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate the super chat. Glad you're with me tonight. So Chris was an initial interview of theirs. I believe it was a virtual one. He is the defensive coordinator under Sean McVay with the Rams. Of course, they just lost in heartbreaking fashion last night. So now those assistants can be spoken to and with, whereas the winning teams, those that are interested in the Clint Kubiaks of the world, you got to wait and play the long game. I believe that's the guidelines. But as far as Chris Shula is concerned, anybody that's a primary defensive coordinator in their role right now, I can't imagine that candidate would be interested in coming over to Baltimore knowing that Jesse's going to be the guy. They hired a defensive-minded head coach whose track record dictates and really states that he will be the primary play caller. So this is probably one of the reasons why, again, Denard Wilson, and can you blame the guy? For example, And I don't know if there was any interest here whatsoever from Jesse's standpoint. But why would Denard Wilson, who's just spent the last couple of years since leaving Baltimore as the primary defensive play caller in Tennessee, why would he want to move and almost take a lesser job in terms of responsibility and title under Jesse Minter? You guys follow me on that? Same thing could be said for Chris Shula with the Rams. Why would he do that? So I'd have to think they've passed. To answer your question, chances are low. And I'd have to think he's been passed on solely based on the decision that they made with their head coach. Appreciate you guys for being with me this evening. If you'd like to call in and share a thought on the new name that we just learned of just a short while ago here, please do so. I have it. Where did my screen share go? Hold on a second here. We're talking about Declan Doyle forecasting the legitimacy of the Ravens' latest candidates. So you got names like Cliff Kingsbury, Joe Brady, Scotty Montgomery as of today. You can take Mike McDaniel off the list. Declan Doyle becomes the latest. But it is starting to become somewhat of a list. And I wonder, oh God, and I almost say God willing because of how much the coach search took out of me from a content perspective. But you almost wonder, are they going to cast as wide of a net as they did when they landed on Todd Monken? Because I'm pretty sure they spoke and interviewed with like double-digit candidates several years ago when they were looking for Greg Roman's successor. Jesus. Why does it feel like that's where we're headed, guys? Let's see if that slip is granted by Chicago, by the way. Brad Biggs is saying, the Chicago reporter, he's reporting that the Ravens put in a slip to talk to Declan Doyle. So time will tell there. Other notes and news stories just related to staffs, incoming and outgoing. The Giants are going to be bringing over Dennis Johnson with John Harbaugh. He was the Ravens defensive line coach the last couple of years. And then the corresponding move is essentially Joe Cullen. Joe Cullen was brought in to be interviewed over the weekend. He was in Baltimore for several years prior to spending the last 4 or 5 in Kansas City. Won a couple Super Bowls under Steve Spagnuolo. And the Ravens interviewed him initially for their defensive coordinator role. I'll continue to stress that anybody who's brought in as defensive coordinator in Baltimore under Jesse Minter will likely, more than likely, be a non-full-time DC and probably have his hands in something other than primarily play calling on the defensive side of the ball on game day. Matt Zenitz last night reporting that along with Dennis Johnson goes Chris Horton, longtime assistant under Harbaugh since 2014. He's been the special teams coordinator for several years in Baltimore. It's a unit for the Ravens that in recent years is trending in the wrong direction. Whether or not Chris is directly responsible for that remains to be seen. I think it's been more of a personnel topic. They've lost a lot of special team aces over the years, like a Chris Board. His name comes to mind. But Chris Horton's going to the New York Giants. And there's some other quality control assistants as well, including Matt Pease, who's Dean Pease' son, who had been with the organization for a little while as well. Looks like he's heading off to New York. Well, looky here. Look who we have in the live chat. Declan Pollard says, need to hire Declan Doyle. It's a Declan on Declan crime. Has a trustworthy name. Declan, thank you for weighing in on Declan tonight. Just the man that we needed to speak to. Certainly. Thank you, sir. This was the perspective we needed. DP. Appreciate you, brother. It's okay, Tilly. The wind is whipping down here in St. Pete. Hopefully you guys are all safe and warm and sound wherever you are. That Arctic blast was no joke. I know my mom is under a couple feet in upstate New York. I know my brother in New York City. That's a spectacle. Did you guys see Shaun White snowboarding in Central Park and doing jumps over Shane Gillis? Only in New York. New York or nowhere. I think that's probably that's probably a good phrase for what was going on in Central Park yesterday. But anyway, hopefully you guys are doing well. Thanks to Preston Automotive Group for the continued support of the program. My longest standing sponsor. You can scan the QR code in the upper right-hand corner if you'd like to learn more. More importantly, though, if you're in the market for a new or pre-owned vehicle this year, just know there are a couple offers that are out there for the table and out there for the taking for you. One of which is a $500 credit towards a new or pre-owned vehicle. The other is when you buy 4 tires, you'll receive 50% off your alignment. You've got over 3,900 vehicles to choose from in the available inventory section, and you can break everything down by your preference. Make, model, keyword, all up in the search box. Toggle over price, vehicle condition, year, make, location, all throughout the DMV. My home dealership when I'm in the area is in Randallstown off of Liberty Road. That's Preston Ford West. Here are all the dealerships for you as well. You do not need to be in Maryland or anywhere near Baltimore to work with Preston. They ship across the country. So special thanks to them, particularly for allowing me to have wheels in the form of my Bobby Baltimore Bronco. Give them a call, 410-673-7171. Again, that's 410-673-7171. Ethan, in terms of the deals, you never know. Give me a shout. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit me up on social media. Happy to chat. Happy to put you in touch with the right people. Well, over 1,500 concurrents tonight on a busy Monday. Appreciate you guys for being with me. If you could like the video on the way in, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member or a gift-giving membership. I'll get to any more super chats should they come in throughout the close of the show. Well, DeAndre Hopkins, longtime veteran wide receiver, future first ballot Hall of Famer, and I guess we can only say it for a few more weeks, but he is a current Ravens wide receiver set to hit the market, the open market, potentially free agency, just like he did a year ago. And he's been on those one-year deals for a little while now, and he's just finishing up his first year and maybe his last in Baltimore. We'll see. He joined Kay Adams on her show earlier this afternoon, and he had this to say about his first year in Baltimore, what his role ended up becoming, and what his future looks like with the Ravens organization.
Just the reality of it, having a new offense coordinator, being an older guy, I know football and I know how the business side works. Of course, I would love to come back, but not every offensive coordinator is in love or wanting a veteran receiver on their team. Some guys have different dynamics of how they go about coaching. So for me, it's nothing personal. Obviously Lamar and I had a great connection. I think when he came to me, I might have been top 10 and productive receivers in the NFL, and that's just when the ball came my way. But of course, I love Baltimore, and me being a competitor, I would have loved to have been used more. Even though that we had Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman on the field and Isaiah Likely. I'm always going to have that mindset that I want to be in the game every third down, every big down. So as long as I'm playing, that would never change. But it doesn't upset me that I wasn't. It doesn't make me become a bad teammate. I'm still cheering the guys on that are in the game. But of course, I felt that I could have been used more. Especially the way Lamar and I started off the season. With the connection that we had. So. For myself, of course, I love Baltimore. I think the city is great. I think the people, the fans are amazing. Organization, I think, is amazing. So, why wouldn't I want to come back? But,
I'm asking, it sounds like is it done, or are you just like seeing it as a business? Like, is your chapter done, you think, there? Because Cliff Kingsbury's rumored. You spent a year with him. If he was the OC or Joe Brady.
Oh,
You scored a touchdown on Jesse Minter. I'm sure he's interested in having you. Remember that one? I do.
I remember that one. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not closing the chapter. Okay. But we shall see. I would love to play with Lamar again. I don't know the last time I played with a quarterback 2 years in a row, and a lot, and it sucks, but it's part of the game.
Is part of the game. And as he just kind of alluded to, guys, it's been part of his life for years now. He spent 2025 in Baltimore. He spent 23 in Tennessee. And then in 24, he began in Tennessee and then was dealt at the deadline to Kansas City, where he spent the second half of 24. Prior to that, he was in Arizona for a few years. That's why she brought up Cliff Kingsbury. There is a relationship there. And then prior to that, he made his hay and became the player that he is, the household name that he is as a member of the Houston Texans. And the fact that he's still playing at 33, he'll be 34 this upcoming summer. 2013 draft class, salute to DeAndre, man. He was not used enough in Baltimore. But when he was, even though it's pedestrian numbers when you stack it up against just the receiver industry in general, yeah, 22 receptions, 39 targets, 330 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns is nothing to write home about. But damn it, if over half of those, were they not all high leverage, key third down situations, red zone? The Buffalo catch was ridiculous in week 1, prime time. You are kind of left wanting more and wondering what more was there to give for DeAndre Hopkins in what was a lost year for many pass catchers in Baltimore. A lot of which was out of their control, knowing that there was a quarterback carousel due to Lamar's injuries, the wear and tear, and the offensive line regression. You are left wondering that going into the offseason. And while he was a total class act in that interview, it sure seems to me that he's wondering as well, knowing what business is like, to use his terms. He understands the business of the NFL after all these years. And he understands better than most that with a completely new staff coming into Baltimore, there's absolutely no guarantee that he'll be back. He was quoted for saying, "Of course I would love to, but not every offensive coordinator wants a veteran receiver on their team. It's nothing personal. Obviously, Lamar and I had a great connection. Of course, I love Baltimore. Me being a competitor, I would have loved to have been used more. I'm always going to have that mindset that I want to be in the game every third down, every big down. It doesn't upset me that I wasn't. It doesn't make me become a bad teammate. But of course, I felt like I could have been used more." Kay followed up, "Is your time in Baltimore over?" Quote, "I'm not closing the chapter, but we shall see. I would love to play with Lamar again. Consider the door ajar." I don't know how to measure how unlikely or likely his return in Baltimore is because they don't have a staff formed yet. And I have no feel for Jesse Minter as a first-year head coach. But damn it, was this guy reliable? Was he ever? And he's taken the high road. In 2024, when again, he played for 2 different teams, Tennessee and Kansas City. And he was acquired by the Chiefs at the deadline. With all that, how tumultuous that was. 56 receptions, 80 targets, 610 receiving yards. Guys, he had 330 receiving yards, 22 receptions, and 39 targets with 2 touchdowns this season. He has every right to feel extremely disappointed. But yet the guy always takes the high road. He's a class act, just as he was in what became maybe his final post-game locker room media scrum interview, building up his guys, building up his teammates, as he did after the Steelers loss. So in terms of evaluating, engaging, and forecasting his future, I don't know. And what I really don't know is what the hell is going on with Rashad Bateman as we stick with Ravens wide receivers and the dialogue related to what unfortunately has been the story of Rashad's career. There's been two stories to me. One is unavailability, and two is the off the field antics. And I hate that those are the two things that come to mind, but it's true. If you want to throw a third in there, he had a phenomenal year last year. Played so well that the Ravens were like, you know what? Let's rip up that deal that we gave you a year ago, because that's not market standard for what you just performed and what you just posted. So we're going to do right by you. We're going to rip that thing up and give you a new extension. Did right by the player. And unfortunately for Rashad, it was a tough season. It was a tough season. How do you think Isaiah Likely feels? Some of this had to do with Lamar being down. You got a quarterback carousel going around. You got Cooper Rush coming in. Offensive line struggled to keep whoever was upright, whoever was behind them upright. I guess Snoop played pretty well, though, didn't he? Snoop played pretty damn well this season and beat a couple teams that are in the playoffs or were in the playoffs. So, including Green Bay at Lambeau and Chicago. Those were two teams that played in the divisional round. Good for him. But I think you know where I'm going with this. It's a tough year for the offense as a whole, and that included Rashad Bateman. Look, I don't know what the Without Bait Instagram page is or who runs it, but what I do know is it's pretty certain, pretty obvious that it's somehow associated with him. And while I can't confirm it's him behind it, it's somehow attached to him and his brand, whether it's entertainment or not. And so when you're restoring things and going back down the path of when he called out the organization and had a Twitter tirade years ago. Of course, this was Sarah's transcription from Eric DaCosta fielding questions. Literally, this is years ago about the perennial issue at the time of drafting wide receivers or misdrafting and having struggles in that department. Then he's putting up cryptic Instagram posts, or whoever's running the Without Bait Instagram account is putting up these cryptic posts as if it's him. This is typically how he speaks, how he types, how he posts. So what are we led to believe? This is just his assistant? All the mother effer needs is a real opportunity. I'm a spin, proved it. F the extra shit. I mean, then he's putting up plays, like in-house plays from the Ravens organization, and what was a different Instagram story that came after that, aka tape that they probably don't want out there. It's just a bad look. It's distasteful. And then a statement comes out on the Without Bait Instagram page. To be honest with you, this is getting to the point where it's like, and Rashad's opened up about some of his struggles off the field with his family life. I know he lost his grandmother within the last year or two, who was a caretaker of his. I know he's dealt with, significant, sad issues with his family, immediate, extended, you name it. And so if he's going through something, and I don't want to suggest that he is, but if that's the case, because of the way that he's opened up in the past to the beat reporter community, and they've written feature stories on this, I genuinely hope that Rashad's doing okay. Because this has the makings of, again, I don't want to throw that out there, but I'm just trying to look at it from a human perspective for a second, rather than coming across so critical, because this has been a trend, a behavioral trend for Rashad over the years. But if it is indeed something serious, I wish him well. I truly do. This statement just doesn't make any sense. I don't even know if I mean, you guys can read it for yourselves if you want. I guess I can try. But again, this is on the Without Bait. Maybe it's already been deleted. I don't know. Because he captioned it, this account will be deleted soon. Appreciate y'all. I don't know if is it still up? Maybe you guys can check that in real time for me. But the statement is with the Batman emoji up top. I ain't know if I was going to address this shit or just let it ride, but was told to at least try by my team. Terrible way to begin. My apologies for the confusion. My account was hacked by someone I know. Lame shit. This one and others. Although I agree with some shit, since you all know me, I ain't got the time for some shit either. I was putting up effing baby strollers all day when I got this news. Dad life on the way. I didn't even know he's a father. Dad life on the, okay, he's expecting maybe. Dad life on the way. I'm trying to get some damn sleep. What is this? Pre-dad life. Got you, boy. Tied. Okay, so significant other expecting is the way I'm deciphering this. End of the day, this is all a business, and I know what type of player I am. I don't care where I'm at. I love ball, and I look forward to doing that wherever the F I'm at. I appreciate Baltimore and love playing there despite what anybody say. I don't give an F what you all say. City changed me, became a grown man there, changed my life. Wherever life take me, that's up to the Lord, and I'll follow, but I'm blessed where I'm at. I ain't said shit all year. Why now? Guys, I just, oh, man. That's tough. That is really, really tough. He just got extended last year. They ripped up the deal and gave him a good deal based on how he performed in 2024. And then you go and do this. I get it. It was a frustrating season. I'm sure it was extremely frustrating for him and everybody involved with the Ravens organization from a offensive standpoint and across the board, top down. But this is just so unnecessary. Like, you got to read the room. Everybody's excited about this new era of Ravens football. Change here, not on the horizon, but here. And you're under contract. Like, come on, Bate. And this is where I genuinely go down the road of wishing him well. Because this is not something that you put up. Up too high hells laughing at my tone while reading that. I thought I did a pretty darn good job of deciphering that as the white boy over here, by the way. Thank you very much. But in all seriousness, I hope he's doing okay. Because while this has been a behavioral trend of his off the field throughout his season since he was drafted in the first round of the 2021 draft. And Afia, I would push back on the fact that you're just going to write it off for not being serious. I would push back on that a little bit. There always is seemingly something going on with Rashad. And again, I'm basing this off of how he opened up and became very vulnerable last offseason going into this year with the beat reporter community. So I'll leave it at that. I wish him well. That's what's going on with Rashad Bateman. I thought it fit with the DeAndre Hopkins discussion. And that's that. More super chats have come in. Declan says, need to hire him. I had that up earlier. Big Dog O Town says only Coach Raven should retain is T. Martin. I actually have a clip from T. Martin, matter of fact, because he did an interview with New York Nightcap recently. And we have yet to share this. And this was going through Raven circles last week, and we forgot to add it in. So here's T. Martin.
Coach Harbaugh's leadership style for his guys on staff and those in the locker room as well?
The best I've been around. The most organized, thoughtful, clear vision. You're going to know exactly what he wants day in and day out. You're going to get the wide scope of the season, the year, the every day to day, the week to week. It's going to be very clear what's expected. And he's the best I've been around in terms of communicating the vision, seeing it through, and making adjustments along the way. He's a listener. He listens to the players, he listens to coaches, and he makes adjustments that he sees fit.
How has he made you better personally and professionally as well?
In all those areas, sometimes you bounce around in our profession and you don't know what good looks like. You can be successful here and there. You can have spots of success, but to see consistency and what a consistently Hall of Fame level head coach looks like, that's what John Harbaugh showed me. And it was the everyday approach. You're talking about a young man who wakes up every morning, he's in the weight room before the players and most of the staff, and he brings that energy, he brings that passion to the game.
How do you expect Coach Harbaugh to impact this program in year one?
Right. I think the first thing that you'll see is the style of play. I think the Giants are already known for a certain style. and their fan base expects that. He'll bring that. He'll bring it right off the bat from the way that they acquire players. It's going to be built to do the things that he wants to do, and that's going to be stop the run the football, and be explosive on offense and stop explosive players on defense. Put people in the positions to be successful. That's what we were able to do here, and I know that that's what he's about, and he'll bring that to New York.
Obviously, you think highly of Coach Harbaugh. That shines through in this conversation. I know that coaching is a very fluid situation right now. I know you've interviewed for offensive coordinator positions, currently on the Ravens staff. Where do things stand for you right now, as the Ravens just hired former Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter as their head coach, and, of course, with Harbaugh being here in New York?
Yes, you're kind of in that in-between phase where you're on the staff, you made changes to the head coach position, just hired a new head coach, and so just kind of sitting by the phone waiting to hear from either side. Have a great relationship here with Lamar and the guys who were here to put this together, had some success over the years. So we'll see if it's an opportunity to stay here or not. And if not, I'll be like other coaches in this time. We'll be looking for jobs and opportunities in the next place. So I've had conversation with Coach, but it's been more from a friend perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see how he was doing. 18 years someplace, and it ended the way that it ended. I was more concerned about John as a friend and as a mentor.
Special stuff, no question. You have a great relationship with Coach. And a part of that, of course, you work closely with Lamar Jackson the last couple of years, NFL MVP quarterback. When you look at his style of play, what similarities do you see between him and Jackson Dart here now with the Giants? And how do you see Dart improving under Harbaugh's leadership here in New York?
All right, that's all New York-based content, so we'll leave it at that. But just wanted to make sure I got the meat part of that, the middle part of it in there for you guys. And he's in wait-and-see mode. I mean, that's the reality. Is that not like a microcosm of life as a coach in the NFL when there's overhaul, when there's change? So like many out there that were on staffs who were not retained, T is waiting for a call. And maybe that's an indication suggesting that Jesse Minter has a decision to make. And maybe Lamar and Jesse need to meet about that before decisions are made. T's been with the organization in Baltimore since 2021. He began as the wide receivers coach for 2 years and then has been the quarterbacks coach for Lamar since 2023, which, of course, was his second MVP season. So, look, he's a respected guy, clearly has a rapport with Lamar. And Big Dog, appreciate you for super chatting me about T. Martin because I wanted to make sure I got that in there. Lauren says, my older son is named Declan. It's a sign. Again, Declan Doyle becomes the latest target, at least on an initial basis, to receive a slip from the Ravens. He's the offensive coordinator under Ben Johnson in Chicago, and the Ravens are interested in interviewing him. Thanks, Lauren. Stephanie says, I would love to see Declan here also. He has been great for Chicago. Thanks for all you do. Stephanie, thanks for all you do for the channel. Joe Jenkins says, make DeAndre number 2. Get rid of Bateman or make him number 3 or 4. Shit, he might already be 3 or 4 as it is right now, Joe. Appreciate you. And an I. Is it an I? An A? I can never get this down. An I or an A? Let's call you AZ. How about that? AZ says, I love Bate, but I think it's time to trade him. Yeah, this wasn't good optics. Not good optics at all. Everything related to whatever that account is. Why does it exist? Wipe that thing off the Instagram earth. It's not doing anybody any good. The entertainment accounts can wait if they're going to be a distraction. Wait until your post-playing days. If they're going to be a distraction. Lamar's doing it. Somebody's running that account for him too, which is kind of funny. They tried to drag me a couple weeks ago. Appreciate you, Lamar Jackson Entertainment. Over 2,000 concurrents and counting tonight. Appreciate you guys for being with me. On the clock is 90 seconds. Dre Dog's on the move. And now he joins me tonight. What's up, brother? 90's yours on the floor.
What up, bro? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so y'all already know. I don't even fuck with Bateman for real. Y'all already know that. I'm not a fan of Bateman. Never been a fan of Bateman. I think I'm like you. I wish him the best, though, because he has some mental shit going on. There's something mentally that's affecting him. And he opened up a little bit about it in last year's what he did with a lot of the beat community, like he was making reference to. He needs to. I think he's the type of person that he may need to take a. The problem is he ain't got the production to do it, but he really needs to take some time away from the game. He really needs to take some time away from the game. his mind is something is off with him, and it's starting to spiral. These little outbursts, these microaggressions that he's having. Yo, I don't want to get too technical as far as psychology, psychiatry, all that type of stuff, but there's some stuff that's going on with him that he needs to get. If he's not getting, he needs to get professional help with, especially with him having a child coming. He cannot take that energy into anything that has to do with a child. Children are the most spontaneous thing on this earth. You never know what they're going to do. And if you're in a mindset where you ain't in the right place or the right state of mind, man, we've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm not wishing that on him. I'm not speaking that on him. But I think he at the point where as though he needs to take some time away from the game, bro. It's something that's going mentally. Real quick, as far as the offensive coordinator from as far as the guy from Chicago, right? One of the things that I really want to pay attention to with a lot of these potential offensive coordinator candidates, if they can have an offense that does not predominantly have a true number one wide receiver. Yes, some of us love Zay. Zay does what he does. But some of these potential coordinators have had true number one wide receivers, X-type wide receivers. And if your offense is predominantly built around that, the Ravens is not the place you need to come, unfortunately, because that's not how they build their offense. They don't build an offense with a predominant true X wide receiver. They've never done that. I mean, you could argue Anquan Bolden for a season, and then they got him out of there. But, and then one little quick nugget. I love the fact that the guy from Notre Dame, one of the things that they mentioned a lot about him is his ability to scout. EDC, when it comes to the scouting department, we hear all these little stories. Like Harbaugh just put out this little story about Puka Nacua, which I don't believe at all. I don't believe that shit at all. I think Harbaugh was just talking out of his ass. I don't believe that at all. But we hear these stories about little breakdowns in communication when it comes to the draft board. I think we need to get guys that are very great recruiters to assist EDC in building this team. Because, again, I said it earlier today on the Vault, Odafe Owe and Rashad Bateman in the same round, in the first round. Come on, bro. Like, there again, my favorite one, David Ajabo hurt in the second round, and please go look at who they took after him. Like, EDC needs some serious help when it comes to building out this roster. I'm going to hop off, let you get back to it. I love you, Bobby.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you, Dre Dog. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a scouting department obviously under him. All general managers have area scouts, robust scouting departments. And what Dre mentioned related to the Puka Nacua nugget that came out from last week, which essentially was, commenting on from Mike Garafolo, which was probably fed to him from John Harbaugh's agent, that he was standing on the table for Puka Nacua, who went in the 5th round a couple years ago. Well, what did the Ravens use 20 picks earlier, their 5th round pick on? Kyu Blue Kelly at the cornerback position, who didn't even make the team following the summer camp. I think that game can be played every year with every team and maybe every single round. Like, part of that is just drafting life. But I get it. Eric has struggled at pass rusher. Eric has struggled in other areas. They've taken a lot of swings at wide receiver. Zay Flowers will likely, I would think, be the first homegrown wide receiver to get a lucrative deal at some point. He's extension eligible this upcoming new league year in this offseason, which is probably why he changed his representation prior to the year. But for the most part, this has been a group that just a year ago, we were talking about how, man, look at what they get out of these veteran 1 or 2 year deal guys at pass rusher in the sack department. Look at what these guys have gotten in free agency. Look at the trades that EDC has made with Roquan Smith and Marcus Peters. So there is still a lot to like. And if you go back to Steve Bisciotti from a week or two ago, I don't think Eric's job is unsafe. Do I think he's above critique? Of course not. And again, particularly pass rusher. That's an area where they've struggled as a team in development, in cultivating talent, an eye for talent, the way they allocate money. And that's obviously really affected level 2 and level 3 of their defense over the last year and in the postseason of last season too. Joe Jenkins says, I also agree 100% with Dre Dog. Something is going on related to Bate. And Joe also says, I agree with AZ. He's got to go. Some of you advocating for a Rashad Bateman trade after some social media antics. Guys, if you haven't already done so, join the Bobby Baltimore Discord server. It is a free 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. And sometimes, like yesterday, the football chat turns into Bobby After Dark, and all of a sudden, there's nitty-gritty details being shared from my second date, which was a group setting, I might add. But I won't go any further than that. We're coming up on, let's see here, as Evan refers to somebody as Fumblecock. Great. That's just fantastic. We are at 1,229 members, so welcome to Brent Wright. Welcome to Swift Swaggy. Uncle Rico. What's up, guys? Appreciate you for joining. Hopefully you guys can hop in here. It's football talk all day long. There is some troll bullshit, but for the most part, it's football chatter across the board. And as you can see, depending on the chat room that best suits you and your interests, there's a bunch to choose from all across the sports world, including Bobby After Dark. So there you have it. Femi says, can't wait to hear what's going on in here. Can you look at Fem? Fem is officially a part of the Bobby Baltimore Discord community. God bless him. God bless him. Should be a show in there. All righty, guys. I'm going to bounce. Appreciate you for being here. Thanks to FanDuel. Thanks to Preston Automotive Group. If you guys haven't already connected with me on other social platforms this offseason, I would love for you to do so. You can connect with me on Twitter, as always, at Bobby Baltimore. I'll link to that in the live chat right now. Been producing a lot of content over there, and that's typically where the content starts. And then commentary as a result and an extension of that content heads over here to YouTube. That's kind of the funnel process that happens. As far as Instagram's concerned, same account, same handle, at Bobby Baltimore. There's a 0 in Baltimore. Go connect with me over there if you'd like. Sometimes I peel back the curtain. You never know. Social life bullshit. That's how it goes when I get a little bit more time on my hands in the off season. And if you're interested in donating to the program and this overall mission, and you don't want to do so through YouTube, Super Chat features, Venmo and Cash App are great options to throw a few bucks around. Nothing is ever expected. Anything and everything is always, always appreciated. So thanks to you all for joining me tonight. Sarah and I will be back at 12 noon Eastern inside the vault tomorrow. And again, mark your calendars accordingly. Thursday, 11:30, the introductory press conference for Jesse Minter. Sarah and I will start late on Thursday. We will not start at noon. We will start after the press conference and after we have a chance to prep for our instant reaction show. Like the video on your way out. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership if you could. I appreciate you guys as always. Looks like Shelly's going to be in the Discord server tonight. Come on, join us. Who knows what's going to be going on inside that chat tonight. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. And always enjoy a good show when we got breaking news in the middle of it as well. A new candidate, Declan Doyle. He's been submitted to speak to by the Ravens. All righty? Appreciate you guys. This crazy month rolls on. I'll join you coming up tomorrow inside the vault. Talk to you then.